All right, good evening. Okay, welcome to today's session over here. Okay, so we'll get started, right? As usual, what we're gonna do. Okay, what we're gonna do is to walk you through the market, okay, and then after which, we'll be opening up for a quick Q&A, and then from there on, we'll just do a simple closing, update you on some of the upcoming events, and that's about it for our week-to-week session. Okay, so quick update from last week. The primary focus for last week was CPI in the US. So if you've been following that, you do see that we have CPI coming in at 3.0. Previous was 4.0. Expectation was 3.1. So naturally, that means that inflationary pressure has indeed came down, and we are now looking at perhaps the Fed is gonna hike it for one more time, and generally that's going to be the end of it. Okay, so what we saw was the dollar weakness, because before the CPI, the general expectation is that the Fed is likely going to hike it 2 times by the end of this year. But after this CPI was released, the general expectation kind of reduced to 1 time in July, and then that's about it. Okay, so we are definitely seeing going forward in the long run, there's a high chance where dollar is likely going to continue to weaken. Okay, so that was a focus last week. If you look into this week here, the CPI data that is coming out is for Canadian or Wednesday, on Tuesday, tomorrow 8:30, right? So that's going to be also important because I think you guys should be able to be aware inflationary pressure is still the primary concern right now. Okay, so this data here is going to be crucial for the CAD. Other than that, I would say not much for the current week. Okay, not much in terms of events that you probably want to take note of. Okay, so that's the event side of things. If you take a look at the chart, okay, this is a chart on dollar index. So we did see dollar index actually drop significantly last week, especially post CPI data. This is a very, very impulsive move. So as of now, we are looking at a potential 5-wave structure. And wave 3 may still be in development, and of course if this is going to do a deeper correction from here, of course wave 3 can be completed and we are seeing wave 4. But either case, my suggestion is to give it a little bit more time to see if this is a development in terms of a corrective structure that's worth taking downside. Okay, so either this is going to be end of wave 3 and we're looking at wave 4 developing right now, or if this just drop a little bit lower from here tomorrow onwards, okay, I wouldn't be too aggressive in selling it yet. I will always want to wait for a decent pullback. Okay, so give it time. You want to see an obvious corrective pullback, perhaps something of this kind of size. Okay, that will give you that wave 4, and of course once wave 4 is completed, we'll then be looking for more downside to complete the entire 5-wave move. Okay, so dollar itself is definitely bearish. Now, if you take a look at euro dollar, we came up very nicely to the 100% Fibonacci extension. So this may complete a simple, you can put it as an ABC or you can put it as a WXY. To me, not that crucial, but the idea here is we have a 1, 2, 3. Okay, and we have an equal leg somewhere around that 100%, right? So most of the time, we're going to see some kind of reaction. Of course, we are seeing price stalling it right now. Now, if this decides to come back down fast, right, so kind of have a little bit of a rejection here, we can expect a deeper pullback this week. Okay, maybe coming back to it somewhere this zone or even this zone here, right? So somewhere between the 50 and 618 retracement. As a short-term trade, you can consider the sell. Okay, so this is a potential trade idea for euro. But of course, we need to first see this drop impulsively, a corrective pullback, and then that's a sell trade. If we don't get it, then there's no sell trade. I'm not too keen to be buying up right here as well. Now, suppose this decides to just take longer time to develop and this becomes a very, very corrective structure, then naturally we'll be looking for more upside from there on. Okay, So I'm neutral right now because I just want to give it more time and see which pattern, how the price is going to develop before we make any decision as to whether we want to buy or sell. Okay, so that's on euro. GBP quite similar. Okay, the only structural difference here is that GBP may have completed a 5-wave move. So after completion of 5-wave move, we do expect this to come down a little bit more aggressive. Okay, at least forming a simple bigger 1, 2, 3, or of course internally this can form a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a bigger pullback, and then another 5-wave move. Okay, so between euro, dollar, and of course pound dollar, you can see pound is actually moving a little bit more aggressive. Structurally, that makes sense as well because this has completed a 5-wave move. Euro here, in fact, is just done potentially a 3. Okay, so same thing though. Even though the structure is different, the expectation and what I'm interested to see is the same. Okay, we want to see an impulsive drop first, a corrective pullback, and then of course naturally that will be a sell trade opportunity for more downside. So GBP USD, I think if we can get a sell trade, we can look for a big move to the downside. Now over here, I'm looking at two primary lows. One is at 1.2590. And the other low here we're looking at is around 1.23. Okay, so any sell potential trade we can get, your target can place around 1.2590 and 1.2300. Okay, that will complete that pullback after a significant rally. And from there on, whether this is going to go back up or this is just going to do a correction and more downside, we'll assess from there on. Okay, but for now, I think we have a clear sell potential that we can start to pay attention on. Now then we have the Aussie. Okay, so Aussie over here, today this come down pretty strong. So in the morning, we were expecting a little bit of a slow move, develop into a tree as a wave 4 structure. So a quick update, right now based on what the price is doing, of course it's still too early. Monday market usually doesn't mean much. Okay, but suppose we can get a bounce here and then a pullback here, essentially building into more of a 3-wave structure in a corrective fashion. That wave 4 can still be valid, right? Because then that would just simply be a pullback to 382. Even if it goes a little bit lower than 382, as long as it stays above this level here, it's still potentially a wave 4, okay, if this does correctively. Now, if it doesn't do a corrective move, but instead this just goes back correctively, okay, and then this just blasts through, impulsive, okay, then of course that would change the entire structure. Perhaps it would change into something like this, right? 1, 2, 3, a bigger move before upside. So again, we are temporary bullish right now, but I don't really like what we're seeing so far in today's development. But either way, you always wait for a 3-wave. Okay, you want to see a corrective move before you commit to the buy trade. Okay, so some of this major, of course, we need to be observant depending on how it's going to play out in terms of the pattern. Certain biases in terms of the direction may change right throughout the week. So that's on Aussie. Dollar CAD. Okay, dollar CAD over here, I'm neutral because we are right now kind of trapped within the zone, right? So the market came down quite fast. It bounced up quite fast either. So I'm looking at it from a perspective where if this forms a corrective move, okay, we can capitalize on a short-term buy. But you want to be careful because this short-term buy can be really, really short-term, and then somewhere around here it can still come back down. Okay. Of course, you also run the probability where this can start and move back up, breaking this high, right? So that will give you maybe a bigger structure after that. But either case, I think if you're buying it, if you get a correction, if you buy it, you just need to be more active in managing the position. If you're not kind of like aggressive, then just avoid that, right? Look for better opportunities elsewhere. Okay, so that's on dollar CAD. Quite straightforward. I mean, most of the majors, you just basically need more information. Okay, based on what we have right now, not much we can get out of it. Okay, dollar yen is a little bit clearer. So dollar yen over here, we're looking at potentially a clear corrective structure development. Okay, Now, if we can get that, then obviously it's a sell, right? No question about that, because this is an impulsive move. If this just developed correctively, we're definitely looking at more downside. Okay, so we do have some fake guidance over here between 382 and 50%, so around 140.2, 141.15. That's the area to look out for. You want this to just keep going slow. Okay, it shouldn't go fast. If it goes too fast to the upside, then that's another structural pattern, right? That becomes a V shape, and then we'll look at it from another perspective already. But for now, as long as it's slow, coming towards this area slowly, correctively, that's a sell opportunity that we can look into. Okay, if you're interested in dollar yen, I think you can even consider from a fundamental perspective. There's a lot of downside potential for the yen pairs. Okay, simply because if BOJ start to announce and officially kind of move their policy towards tightening, that will open up a lot of downside for the yen pairs here, right? Which means yen strengthen. Then we have gold. Okay, so gold here is right now developing corrective in nature, which is something that we want to see. Okay, it's a little bit tight in terms of how this pattern can still play out. Okay, right now we're seeing potentially is a 1, 2, 3 wave 4 developing, and we expect a bit more of an upside. Okay, right now price is within the wave 4 fib areas. Okay, and as long as price is still above this low, right, or this high, then everything is still valid. Okay, however, if price decides to come down and break this level, then we can't say it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Maybe then we need to reassess the entire situation of it. But for now, this is my primary view, right? And of course, depending on how aggressive you are, you may consider buy here. Okay, or you may consider drop into a lower time frame, look for a breakout trade on a lower time frame like H1, M30. Okay, basically you need to follow your trade plan, right? So if you look at this here on an hourly, we kind of have a very nice little flat pattern structure. Okay, of course, you can consider breakout, you can consider divergence, you can consider mini double bottom, etc. Right? There's many ways to get involved in the trade. You need to be clear on like what is the conditions for you to pull the trigger. Okay, so that's on gold. Direction is definitely upside. Now crude oil here, we are bullish, but of course we are expecting a bit of a pullback. Again, whenever a market move off very strongly in one particular direction without a clear pullback, you always want to be a little bit patient and expect eventually a deeper pullback, right? So crude oil is doing that. We have our first wave down, so this may take some time to develop this move up, and then after that it may take some time to develop this move down. Somewhere around this zone will be an area to look for a buy. Okay, so if you're looking at crude oil, just be a little bit patient. I don't personally trade crude oil, but I know some of the traders do. Okay, in fact, one of them actually shared that he actually managed to ride this entire move out, right, which is great. Now, as this is happening, you may want to maybe exit your position first, and then look for re-entry when the next setup appears, right? Or of course, you can just take partial profits, shift your stops to break even, and then hold on to it. Again, entirely up to your trade plan, right? So that's on crude oil. S&P over here, we're expecting a little bit of pullback, so I'm neutral. Again, I'm not interested in selling the equities. I think we are definitely in a bullish transition. Transition into the bull market, and that means there's definitely more upside than downside. Especially if the Fed again is likely not gonna hike rates anymore too aggressively and potentially talking about cutting rates, then it's actually beneficial for equities, right? So long run, definitely buy. So you primarily want to focus on buy opportunities instead of selling it. Okay, so any pullback correctively can be seen as a buy setup for equities. Okay. All this here will skip up a little bit. Okay, and then we'll go over to BTC. Okay, so BTC over here, last week until this week, I think not much has changed. Last week when I kind of shared the analysis, I think it was still something like that, right? So we're still focusing on a little bit of downside here. Okay, ideally it should start to slow down, and of course, if you give us a crawl structure here, that will be best, right? We'll be looking for a buy trade of BTC. Okay, sometimes you just need to be patient, right? I mean, after this impulsive move, since somewhere here we have been talking about, just be patient. You know, we wait for the buy, we are interested in buy, but we don't want to just rush into a trade. And since then, the market is just doing its consolidation. Okay, so this is actually a very good case study of, you know, after an impulsive move, um, you just want to be patient, right? Because if you imagine you jump into either a buy or sell here, it's quite difficult to be trading in this kind of environment, right? Because the market is not going anywhere, it's just taking a long time to develop. So you might as well just stay at the sidelines and then wait until a setup comes to you, and then you look for the buy, and then ideally in the shortest time possible, you move in your direction, and then, you know, you just manage to trade fairly easily from a psychological point of view. So BTC here, look out for areas around 29600 to somewhere around 28800. That will be the area of interest for potential buy trade in terms of BTC. Okay, good. So generally, these are the few things to note. I mean, of all pairs here, the one that really interests me a little bit more is definitely the yen pairs, right? Again, it may not come to you in terms of setup tomorrow or even Wednesday. Maybe the setup may come nearer towards the end of the week, right? Because if this is going to develop correctly, it needs time. You need to give it time. Okay, so to me, I think the yen pairs is definitely showing a little bit more interest, right? I mean, pound yen may not be the best of all the yen pairs. But dollar yen is definitely one of the top priority to be focusing. Aussie yen a little bit here. Okay, if you can get a corrective move back up, you know, something like this, then that would be a nice little sell opportunity as well. Okay. But I think dollar yen is definitely the best because you're pairing up potential weakness from the dollar plus potential strength in the yen. Okay, if you're looking at pound yen here, the fundamentals on GBP may be fairly strong. And therefore, you know, this particular pair of pound yen may be a little bit of a mix, right? So this one here, you just need to be a little bit more careful, okay? Yep, so those are a few things that I have, right? So yeah, quick one. I'll take maybe a couple of questions if you guys have any. I mean, some of you, I know, you know, you're looking at certain where is it? You're looking at certain assets, right? So okay, let me just look into it. Okay, A50, right? I think last week this was an analysis that we've done. Okay, again, I don't trade this, but you know, very nice little pattern, right? So you can see things again, it tends to repeat itself over and over again, right? Impulse 1, 2, 3, very nice little reaction. You can expect more downside here to retest the bottom, right? So China shares, China market probably a little bit more downside. Hong Kong here, I think last week we mentioned a little bit of a bounce, right? We didn't really get that 15.618 retracement you can see from here, but right now I would say in terms of Hong Kong and China, a little bit divergence. Okay, China is obviously down, okay, from the pattern. Hang Seng here, you want to be a little bit neutral, okay, because what can develop here, if I were to add in a little bit of a notation, okay, that would definitely be a key low because of this impulsive rally, right? Impulsive push to the upside. I will put this as a simple 1, 2, 3 wave, WXY. Okay, and right now what we are seeing here potentially is this is our very first push up. Okay, now if we put in a bit of fib here to give it some guidance. Okay, now suppose we get a corrective pullback. Okay, meaning this comes down slow, right? It takes time, it comes down slow. We can expect a little bit more of a push back up. Okay, so the prerequisite, of course, if this pullback is slow, we can expect another pushback. Okay, and there are a couple of ways in which you can kind of forecast where this can take you towards, right? One way to look at it, of course, is we can look at it from a bigger perspective that looks something like this. Okay, so this means that this is 1, 2, and then of course we're looking at a third wave up, and then maybe a move down. But of course, you don't need to be overly concerned, right? Because if you're buying here, when it reaches this top, then you only make a decision. It's not too late. Okay, in terms of targets, in terms of like if you're making profit where you want to get out your position, it's not too complex, right? You can always make a decision as the market continue to develop. But you need to obviously start to look for areas that you're interested to get in first. Okay, so that's one way of developing. What it can also do, of course, is that it can actually just push back up here. Okay, and basically then that develops into a 1, 2, and then maybe one more push down. Okay, to retest this, because right now this low hasn't really tested that low, and then from there on we get a bigger move up, right? Now this structure here would give us a long-term buy. Okay, now the other structure that I drew just now, this one, would potentially give us one more mid-term downside first. Okay, again, nothing is 100%, but we're talking about probability. Okay, so depending on how the pattern develops, depending on how the market move, we'll as I mentioned, right, we'll reassess as you're interested in buy, right? You take the buy first. By the time it reaches here or reaches here, we'll reassess again whether this is gonna come down first, or we're gonna get all the way up here and then this will come down, right? Okay, so that's the view on the Asia market in terms of like A50 and HSI. Okay, Cool here has some question on certain stocks, right? Quick one, Microsoft. I think this one, not much that we can really look into, but I think you want to be paying attention to this low. Okay, right now we are having a little bit of kind of a potential top-ish formation. So if this comes back down slow, okay, this would likely develop into something like this and then more upside. I mean, overall, Microsoft fundamentally is a strong company. Okay, I think if you're looking at this, you probably would be more interested in buy side. Okay, again, depending on the time frame, right? In a 4-hour time frame, we'll be focusing on the buy opportunity. If you're on a shorter time frame, intraday, then we look at it from a perspective of this being a double top, right? We have a nice little rejection. If you're looking at shorter time frame, then of course any pullback would be a sell opportunity. Potential target is back at the previous low. Okay. If you're looking at daily, then obviously you're gonna be focusing on buy opportunity, right? There's no sell here. Okay, so if you're looking at daily, it's quite similar to H4. You'll be interested to buy if this comes down slow, and then around this zone will be good area to look for a buy. Okay, I mean some of these stocks here, like you mentioned, right? Microsoft, Apple, Google, which is Alphabet. They're all fundamentally very solid stocks, right? So the direction from a larger time frame perspective is always buy. Okay, it's always buy. But again, you can see market has pulled out quite aggressively recently. Okay, of course, these are all tech stocks, AI related stuff, right? So wait for at least some kind of pullback. Okay, if you're looking at daily chart, you don't need to rush things through, right? Because every day you just wait for one candle. Okay, just be patient. Okay, some key levels to just keep track, of course. Okay, is the previous low, right? Because again, the market likes to develop in trees and it likes to break some recent high and low before it moves. Okay, so that's quite similar in terms of Microsoft and Apple over here. Okay, I think even in terms of like Alphabet, which is Google, yeah, more or less the same, right? I mean, we did that, didn't really come back down, but you can see basically it's upside because they're all fundamentally very strong company. Now, this one here is a little bit more interesting because we do get some obvious structural that we can work with. Okay, so this one here, if you're looking at Google, there's a little bit more in terms of like details we can build in because of the move. You can see it's a little bit big, right? If this decides to come down, your next level is around 113.5. Okay, and then of course that will just give you a very simple three-wave move for a potential buy. Okay. Again, you want this to come down correctively. You don't want it to just, impulsively push down, right? You want this to come down a little bit, go up a little bit, come down a little bit. Okay, and then that would be your buy setup for the upside. Okay, quite straightforward. Amazon, yeah, more or less the same. This didn't really work out. It didn't get a break. So overall, I think this will be very, very similar to Apple, very, very similar to Microsoft. Okay. CRM, yeah. Okay. Again, a lot of all these tech companies, you realize generally the direction is the same. Okay. But if you ask me, I think of all the structure that's clearest to me, is Alphabet, right? Which is Google. Okay. Disney is a company that initially, not initially, but some time back, is a very, very strong fundamental company. But since COVID, this company has underperformed a lot, right? We're not talking about price movement, we're talking about the company itself, the fundamental. Okay. Earnings has dropped a lot. I mean, Disney Plus wasn't doing as great, right? I mean, overall, the company has dropped in its fundamental, okay, and of course, it's reflected in its price chart here as well. So my take is, I personally wouldn't invest in Disney anymore. I mean, there's a fundamental reason for such a big company for its price stock to drop like that. Okay. So, I'm not too keen to be buying, obviously, okay, unless there is a turnaround in terms of the fundamentals from this company. But until then, from a fundamental perspective, I'm not interested in buying it. So if you're looking at this chart, my suggestion is trade it, right? Instead of like looking for long-term investing opportunities, you just trade the price. Okay, meaning short-term, use some pattern impulse correction, look for downside. Of course, the target on this particular trade here may not be a lot. You want to focus on previous low, maybe around $84, right? Okay, so not a great company to be buying up, yeah. Okay, USD, South African Rand, this one definitely sell. Downside, I mean, this is quite similar to like dollar yen pattern, right? It's also very, very similar to potentially dollar franc. Okay, so the patterns are the same, right? Again, the instrument may be different, but if the pattern is the same, you just focus on the pattern. Okay, correction, downside. Okay, Tesla. Didn't get that. Okay. Yeah, Tesla again, quite similar to Apple, to Microsoft. Just wait for the pullback first, right? You probably don't want to buy here, right? Because again, after a strong move, we haven't really seen a nice little pullback. Wait for the pullback before we jump in. Yeah. Good. Okay, I see some Asia stocks, right? Like Alibaba. Again, I'll stay away from this company. Okay, you can trade it, but if you ask me, would I invest in this? Probably not. Okay, I mean, between this and Amazon, Amazon would be probably a better one. Okay. Yeah, but if let's say you're interested to look at it from some key levels perspective, this looks corrective in nature as compared to this. So there's a good chance we may get one more drop, okay, to retest the bottom before you look for a buy, right? So maybe somewhere around like $80 would be a good area to look for potential buy trade if you're interested in that. Okay, TSM. Yeah, TSM is quite similar to Alphabet, right? So the pattern here we can see is quite similar, true wave expectation, and then upside, right? So in terms of this, what we can look at, of course, we have this as a potential 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and of course, what's developing right now is that pullback of a simple ABC. Okay, so very, very classic Elliott wave pattern if you can observe that, right? So of course, this would ideally want to come down slow and then you get a push up, right? And then you trade the next 5-wave move up, right? So this is again very, very clear, quite similar to Google, right? Alphabet. Okay, Samsung over here. Okay, maybe I'll key in electronics. Okay, just not sure which one in terms of the data feed. Yeah, of course there's quite a few. Probably this one, right? It's OTC, but we don't get a lot of data. Okay, we'll probably need to look at the Korean stock exchange, right? But of course, if you are looking at it maybe on another data feed, the price may be different. Okay, this is in Korean won, obviously. But I think in terms of the price pattern and movement is going to be more or less the same. Okay, so let's take a look at it from a long-term perspective. Okay, it's loading. Okay, this one here, I would say you want to be a bit patient and a bit careful. This seems to be developing a little bit of a crawl. Okay, and this may then start to develop into a corrective move before an upside, right? Overall, it's buy, right? There's no reason to be selling it. But always wait for something like this to develop first, right? Something like this to develop. Okay, so if you map this here, that's what you want to see. Okay, so right now, just be patient. If this just break off without you, same thing, you just wait for the next pullback. Okay, yeah, so that's on this. Okay, good. Last one here I see is Australia index. Okay, cool. So this is what we had last time we did it. I think overall it's still upside, right? I mean, from the chart over here, okay, if you look at the pattern, we have this as an impulse. Okay, this is a corrective move. Of course, we have this low here. This is an impulsive push. So what I would see is this is obviously a very significant low. Okay, you want to wait for a pullback. We may not get that 618, right? So somewhere between 382 and 50, if we can get a corrective pushback, that will be definitely a buy trade. Okay. You can do a very simple target if you're looking for some targets here. You just do a simple 1:1. Okay, so you just map it somewhere there. Of course, if you're more precise, you just use the FIBs, right? Just use FIBs 1:1, put you somewhere around there. Okay, so yeah, Australia index quite straightforward, right? If you get corrective pullback, definitely is bullish on that. Okay, yeah. Good. Okay, yeah, so that's basically about it, right? So again, you can see the idea of technical analysis basically can apply to anything, right? FX, commodities, cryptos, individual stocks, even indices, you can actually apply that. Okay, good. So before we end off, just very quickly, two things to share with you from my side. Okay, first thing over here is that we're having a offline event in Chinese, right? The topic here is 利用市场的相关性交易, right? In English, it's basically market correlation. The event is happening on Saturday, right? 3 to 6 p.m. In Malaysia, PJ. So if you're interested in this, do RSVP with the team, okay? And then you'll be able to join us for this event. Now, how to RSVP, of course, if you're watching on Zoom, you would have a WhatsApp link in the chat, right? You can actually refer to the WhatsApp link. If you're watching this on YouTube, okay, go to the video description. There you will find a WhatsApp link as well. If you're watching it right now on training.live, okay, then what you can do is you can head over to my Instagram profile. Okay, head over to my Instagram profile. And then over here you have this hyperlink. You can click it. Okay, and then this is the very first workshop. Okay, but of course this is in Mandarin, right? The workshop will be conducted in Mandarin. But the topic is basically market correlation. Okay. Now another thing to very quickly update you is recently we have started the PAM account, right? PAM account basically means that you as an investor would have the option to tag your account to one of this master account, okay, where we are trading based on expert advisor, right, EAs, and we launched it in May this year, and so far this is a result, right? So far in July is pretty solid. Okay, we have about 6.25% as of today in July. Of course, we can't promise you anything, but you can see June is a little bit slow, but average, we're expecting about 2 to 3% on average, right? So May was an outperformance, July so far is an outperformance, but average is about 2 to 3% per month. So if you're interested in understanding a little bit more about PAM, or you're familiar with PAM and you just want to find out a little bit in terms of like how you can actually get started tagging your account to this master account using the expert advisor EAs to trade, right? Same thing here, you can feel free to contact the team, right? It's also same thing through the WhatsApp link, okay? So if you're again on Zoom, okay, I think you can reach out to them through WhatsApp. If you're on YouTube, same thing, click on the link to the WhatsApp. If you're watching on trading.live and you'd like to understand a little bit more, we don't have the website set up, but this is basically the link, right? You click this, it will lead you to the WhatsApp from the team. You can inquiry about it, okay? So you can either, if you're interested in the event, okay, it's the same link. Click to RSVP through WhatsApp. If you're interested to find out a little bit more about the PAM account, okay, same thing. Click here. It will bring you to WhatsApp, and then you just inquiry a little bit more about the PAM account, okay? So good. That's all from me for today, right? Hope you guys actually take away something of today's event and sharing over here. Okay, so all the best to your trading for this week. And I'll see you guys in the next one, yeah? Okay, so see you guys. Bye-bye.